The silent arrival. The stars burned cold against the vast emptiness of space as Commander Ilara watched her fleet's signals blink out one by one. Each light that vanished on her tactical display represented hundreds of lives, ships that would never return home. The Allied worlds were losing, not just a battle, but the entire war. "Casualty reports from the Meridian sector, Commander," said Lieutenant Krex, his forearms working furiously over the holographic interface. The insectoid officer's antennae drooped, a rare display of emotion from his usually stoic species. 3 more colony worlds have fallen. The Zinthari are advancing on all fronts. Ilara's scaled skin shimmered with stress patterns as she absorbed the news. For 6 years, the Allied worlds, a coalition of 17 different species, had fought against the Zinthari Dominion's relentless expansion. 6 years of retreats, of watching civilizations thousands of years old crumble under the Zinthari's superior weaponry and ruthless tactics. "What about the Proxima defense line?" Ilara asked, though she already knew the answer. "Breached 12 hours ago," Krex replied. "The 7th Fleet is destroyed." Admiral Nover's final transmission indicated the Zinthari are deploying their planet crackers. Planet crackers. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Weapons that could tear a world apart from its core, reducing billions of years of planetary evolution, and any civilization upon it, to asteroid belts in a matter of hours. On the main view screen of the command center, the remaining Allied forces appeared as a small cluster of blue dots, surrounded on 3 sides by the overwhelming red swarm of Zinthari warships. Their last remaining sanctuary, the massive space station Bastion 9, floated in the Arcturus system, the final defensible position before the homeworlds of the founding Allied species. "The High Council is requesting your presence for the surrender ceremony," Krex said quietly. "The terms have already been drafted." Ilara closed her inner eyelids, a gesture of grief among her people. Surrender meant subjugation. The Zinthari did not take prisoners. They took slaves. Entire species reduced to serving the Dominion's insatiable hunger for resources and expansion. "Tell them I'll be there shortly," she said. As Krex moved away, Officer Tana, a small furry Mibari with large expressive eyes, approached with unusual urgency. "Commander, we're detecting an unidentified ship entering the system," Tana reported. "It's not broadcasting any Allied or known Zinthari signatures." Ilara frowned. "Pirates? At a time like this?" "No, ma'am. The design is nothing I've ever seen before. Very angular, minimal energy signature. It almost slipped past our detection grid." "On screen," Ilara ordered. The view screen shifted to show a sleek vessel of midnight black, cutting through space like a predator. No visible weapons arrays, no massive engine ports like those of Zinthari dreadnoughts. It was elegant in its simplicity, oddly beautiful against the backdrop of war. "They're hailing us," Tana said, surprise evident in her voice. Ilara hesitated only a moment. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and Ilara found herself looking at a being she had only heard of in reports and rumors. The creature had smooth skin, no scales or fur, with dark hair pulled back from its face. Its eyes were alert and intelligent, its expression unreadable. A human. "This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth vessel Nighthawk," the human said, her voice level and confident. "I understand you folks could use some help." The command center fell silent. Humans were a relatively new species on the galactic stage. They had made contact with the outer colonies of the Allied worlds only 15 years ago, but had declined formal membership, preferring to establish trade relations while maintaining their independence. When the war with the Zinthari began, Earth had offered diplomatic assistance, but remained militarily uninvolved. "Captain Chen," Ilara responded carefully. "I am Commander Ilara of Bastion 9. I appreciate your offer, but I'm afraid the situation is beyond help. The Allied worlds are preparing to surrender." The human's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, something Ilara couldn't quite identify. With respect, Commander, I think that's premature, Captain Chen said. Request permission to dock and discuss alternatives. Alternatives. Ilara couldn't keep the bitter note from her voice. Have you seen the Zinthari fleet? They outnumber us 10 to 1. They have planet crackers positioned around 3 inhabited worlds. What alternative is there to surrender? Captain Chen leaned forward slightly. Victory. The sheer audacity of the statement stunned Ilara into momentary silence. The Zinthari Dominion doesn't know humans yet, Chen continued. They don't know how we fight. Request permission to dock, Commander. Let me show you what one human ship can do. Against her better judgment, against all logic, Ilara felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Curiosity. And beneath that, a dangerous, fragile spark of hope. Permission granted, Captain. Bay 4 Alpha. I'll meet you there personally. Bay 4 Alpha was small by Bastion 9 standards, typically used for diplomatic vessels and courier ships. The Nighthawk fit comfortably in the space, its obsidian hull absorbing the bay's lights rather than reflecting them. As the airlock cycled and the doors slid open, Ilara found herself holding her breath. Captain Maya Chen was taller than she appeared on screen, moving with a controlled grace that spoke of military training. She wore a simple black uniform without insignia or rank markers. Behind her came 4 more humans, each carrying what appeared to be personal equipment cases. Commander Ilara. Chen extended her hand. A human greeting gesture that Ilara had been briefed on, but never experienced. Captain Chen. Ilara reciprocated the handshake awkwardly with her 3-fingered hand. These are my senior officers, Lieutenant Krex and Officer Tana. Chen nodded to each of them. My team. Lieutenant Zhao, our tactical specialist. Dr. Rahman, systems engineer. Commander Jackson, weapons expert. And Specialist Gray, communications and intelligence. The introductions complete, Ilara led them toward the command center. As they walked through the station's corridors, she noticed station personnel stopping to stare at the humans, some with hope, others with skepticism, but all with curiosity. Your arrival is unexpected, Ilara said carefully. Earth has maintained neutrality throughout this conflict. Earth's policy was non-intervention, Chen corrected. That changed when the Zinthari destroyed the Artemis research outpost 3 months ago. 42 human scientists died. Ilara stopped walking. I wasn't aware of this. It wasn't widely reported. The Zinthari claimed it was a navigational error. We know better. Chen's expression hardened momentarily. But that's not why we're here. We're here because if the Allied worlds fall, Earth is next. Self-interest, if you prefer. In the command center, the tactical display still showed the overwhelming Zinthari forces surrounding their position. The High Council members, already gathered for the surrender discussions, looked up in surprise as Ilara entered with the humans. What is the meaning of this, Commander? Asked Counselor Vex, the eldest member, his translucent skin flushing with agitation. The surrender ceremony has been postponed. Ilara interrupted. Counselors, may I present Captain Maya Chen of Earth? She believes there may be an alternative to surrender. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of multilingual protests. Captain Chen ignored them, walking directly to the tactical display. Her team spread out, connecting devices to various consoles after brief consultations with the station's operators. You're planning a defense here, and here, Chen said, pointing to the display. Standard formation, covering the approaches to Bastion 9. Those are the optimal positions given our remaining forces, said the Allied military advisor, an aging warrior from the mineral-based Thelosian species. Optimal if you want to die bravely, Chen replied. She manipulated the display, zooming out to show the entire system. The Zinthari expect you to make a last stand here. They're prepared for it. They've studied your tactics for 6 years. And you think you know better? The advisor growled. I know different, Chen corrected. Lieutenant Zhao, show them. Zhao stepped forward, connecting a small device to the display. The hologram shifted, now showing a complex series of calculations and projections. The Zinthari rely on overwhelming force and direct approaches, Zhao explained. Their tactics are brutally efficient but predictable. They've never needed to be creative because they've never faced an enemy who could match their technological advantage. And humans can? Asked a skeptical counselor. Humans, said Chen, have been fighting outnumbered and outgunned for our entire history. We specialized in asymmetric warfare long before we reached the stars. She turned to Ilara. Commander, how many automated resource drones do you have in this system? Ilara blinked at the unexpected question. About 2,000. Mining operations, mostly. Why? And how many of your damaged ships could be remotely operated? Perhaps 300, but they're combat ineffective. Perfect. Chen smiled for the first time since her arrival. It was not entirely reassuring. Here's what we're going to do. As Chen outlined her plan, Ilara felt the dangerous spark of hope growing stronger. It was audacious, possibly suicidal. But it was also unlike anything the Zinthari would expect. You're talking about sacrificing most of our remaining functional ships, Counselor Vex objected. I'm talking about making the Zinthari believe they've destroyed your fleet, Chen corrected, while your actual forces execute a maneuver they won't see coming. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. How soon can we implement this? Ilara asked finally. Chen glanced at her team, who gave subtle nods. 6 hours, just in time for the Zinthari victory celebration. You seem very confident, Captain, said the Thelosian advisor. Chen's expression turned solemn. Throughout human history, our most spectacular victories have come when we had nothing left to lose. You're at that point now. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each council member. The Zinthari think this war is over. Let's show them it's just beginning. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, the councillors began to nod. Ilara turned to Krax. Cancel the surrender ceremony. Alert all ship's captains. We have new orders. For the first time in months, Ilara allowed herself to feel something beyond grim determination and the weight of inevitable defeat. As Captain Chen began directing her team and coordinating with allied officers, Ilara recognized what she had seen in the humans' eyes earlier. It wasn't just confidence. It was the calm, focused intensity of a predator that had spotted its prey. The human factor. Supreme Commander Vrax of the Zinthari Dominion stood on the bridge of his flagship, the indomitable Conquest, watching with satisfaction as the final battle unfolded exactly as predicted. His fleet surrounded the last Allied stronghold, methodically destroying any ships that attempted to break the blockade. Status report, he demanded, his voice resonating through his chitinous vocal chambers. Allied resistance continues to decrease, Supreme Commander reported his second, Sub-Commander Krell. Their formation is breaking apart. Several of their capital ships appear to be attempting to flee. Vrax's mandibles clicked in amusement. Let them run. Pursuit units will hunt them down later. He turned to the tactical officer. How long until we can commence the final assault on their station? 2 hours, Supreme Commander. We are positioning the planet crackers to ensure optimal coverage off. An alarm blared, cutting off the officer's report. What is happening? Vrax demanded. Unusual energy readings from the mining sector. The tactical officer reported, his claws moving rapidly over the controls. Multiple signatures. They appear to be detonating. On the main display, dozens of small explosions bloomed across the asteroid field that bordered the main battle space. Moments later, the sensors registered massive electromagnetic pulses cascading through the fleet's right flank. Communications disrupted in sectors 7 through 12, reported the communications officer. 38 ships no longer responding to commands. Vrax slammed his armored fist onto the command console. How? Allied ships would have been detected approaching those sectors. They weren't ships, Supreme Commander, the tactical officer said. Confusion evident in his voice. The signatures matched standard mining drones. They appear to have been converted into EMP delivery systems. Before Vrax could respond, another alarm sounded. Multiple incoming vessels from the system's outer rim, reported the sensor officer. They're Allied ships, but showing critical damage. They should not be functional. On screen, Vrax ordered. The display shifted to show what appeared to be the broken husks of Allied warships, their hulls scorched and breached, somehow moving under power directly toward the heart of the Zinthari formation. Those ships were confirmed destroyed in previous engagements, Krell said, mandibles twitching in agitation. How are they? The answer came as the first of the ghost ships slammed into a Zinthari cruiser, detonating in a blinding flash that consumed both vessels. More followed, each targeting key ships in the Zinthari fleet. They've turned their destroyed vessels into guided missiles, Vrax realized, fury building in his thorax. This is not Allied tactics. This is Supreme Commander, the communications officer interrupted. We're detecting a new transmission on all frequencies. It's overriding our encryption. A strange sound filled the bridge, a rhythmic pattern that Vrax's translator identified as music from some primitive culture. Along with it came a visual transmission, a simple symbol of a Bikdal figure, beneath it words in the common trade language. Humanities AYs AELO. What species is this? Vrax demanded. Before anyone could answer, the tactical display erupted with new alerts. The remaining Allied ships had suddenly altered their formation, executing a complex maneuver that bypassed the Zinthari front lines completely. They're targeting our command ships, Krell shouted. How did they penetrate our screen? The answer became clear as the Allied formation passed directly through what should have been solid ranks of Zinthari warships, ships that no longer responded to command, their systems crippled by the carefully orchestrated EMP attack. All vessels, defensive formation. Vrax ordered. Launch all fighters. Target those Allied ships immediately. But the reorganized Allied fleet moved with unexpected precision, concentrating their fire on specific targets rather than spreading their attacks across the Zinthari line as they had in previous engagements. One by one, Zinthari command ships found themselves isolated and overwhelmed. We've lost contact with the dreadnought's eternal dominance and subjugation, reported the communications officer. The planet crackers are requesting emergency instructions. They're detecting incoming Allied fighters on unusual approach vectors. Impossible, Vrax raged. The Allied fighters don't have the range to. An explosion rocked the indomitable Conquest as something impacted against its shield array. What was that? Vrax demanded. Small craft, Supreme Commander, the tactical officer reported, but not Allied design. Unknown configuration. The main screen showed a black dart of a ship, smaller than a standard fighter, weaving through the Zinthari defense grid with impossible agility. More detected. The sensor officer called out. They're targeting our shield generators and weapon emplacements with extreme precision. Vrax watched in growing horror as the mysterious craft systematically dismantled his flagship's defenses. They moved unlike any ships he had ever seen, executing maneuvers that should have killed their pilots with gravitational forces alone. Transmit to all ships, Vrax ordered. Disengage from current targets. Focus all fire on those black craft. They are the key. But the order came too late. Across the battlefield, Zinthari ships found themselves outmaneuvered and outflanked by an enemy that no longer fought according to the predictable patterns of the past 6 years. On Bastion 9, Commander Ilara watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Beside her, Captain Chen directed her small team with calm efficiency, coordinating the movements of both the Allied fleet and her own squadron of advanced Earth fighters. The Nighthawk crew calls them Wraiths, Chen explained when Ilara asked about the small black ships wreaking havoc across the Zinthari fleet. Atmospheric-capable stealth fighters with enhanced maneuverability. Their pilots are specially trained for high-G operations. They're turning the tide, Ilara said quietly. I wouldn't have believed it possible. It's not just the technology, Chen replied. It's the approach. The Zinthari expect you to fight honorably, to protect your worlds and your people directly. They're not prepared for an enemy willing to sacrifice pieces to win the game. Like those drone bombs, Krex said, having overcome his initial shock at the human tactics. And the remote-piloted derelict ships. Chen nodded. Misdirection. Psychological warfare. Using your enemy's expectations against them. These are human specialties. The tactical display updated, showing the Zinthari formation now in disarray. The planet crackers, their defensive screens stripped away by the precise attacks of the Wraith fighters, were now vulnerable. Time for Phase 3, Chen said, activating her comm. All Wraith units, execute Operation Thunderclap. On the screen, the Earth fighters broke off from their attack runs and formed into 3 tight formations. Each group accelerated toward one of the massive planet cracker vessels, the pride of the Zinthari fleet and the source of their most terrible destructive power. They can't possibly destroy those ships, the Thelosian advisor objected. Their weapons aren't powerful enough to penetrate those hulls. They don't need to destroy them, Chen said. Just disable them at the right moment. She turned to Dr. Rahman. Status. Rahman looked up from his console. Charges are in position. Detonation sequence prepared. Ilara looked between them. What charges? What are you talking about? Who are these humans? He demanded of nobody in particular. How dare they interfere in our conquest? Supreme Commander, Krell reported, the fleet is requesting permission to withdraw and regroup. We've lost 30% of our combat capability. Withdraw? YTHGRIO. Vrax's rage echoed through the bridge. The Zinthari Dominion does not retreat. We will crush these humans along with the allied worlds. Order all remaining ships tow. The bridge shuddered as another impact struck the flagship. Hull breach on decks 12 through 14, reported the damage control officer. Shield generators failing. Weapons at 40% capacity. For the first time in his long military career, Vrax felt something unfamiliar crawling through his carapace. Doubt. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. From the Allied station. Put it through, Vrax ordered. The screen flickered to show Commander Ilara standing alongside a human, presumably the architect of this unexpected reversal. Supreme Commander Vrax, Ilara said formally. This is Commander Ilara of the Allied worlds, with Captain Maya Chen of Earth. We offer you the opportunity to withdraw your forces from Allied space immediately and return to Zinthari territory. You offer me? Vrax's mandibles clacked in fury. You are still outnumbered. This temporary setback changes nothing. The Dominion will. The Dominion will lose another 30% of its fleet in the next hour if you continue this battle. Chen interrupted calmly. And we haven't even deployed our main Earth fleet yet. Vrax froze. Main fleet. The Nighthawk is a scout ship, Commander Vrax, Chen said. Earth has been preparing for this conflict since you destroyed our research outpost. We were simply waiting to understand your tactics before committing our forces. She gestured to a subordinate off-screen. Would you like me to signal the main fleet to join us? They're standing by. It was a bluff, and a masterful one. Vrax had no way to know if the human was telling the truth, but the evidence before him suggested these humans were far more dangerous than anticipated. If this was what a single human ship could do, you have 1 hour to begin your withdrawal, Ilara continued. After that, we will resume our counterattack with Earth's fleet. This offer will not be repeated. The transmission ended, leaving Vrax staring at the tactical display, showing his once invincible armada now scattered and vulnerable. Your orders, Supreme Commander, Krell asked quietly. Vrax's pride warred with his tactical assessment. The Zinthari Dominion had never retreated from battle, but they had also never faced an enemy who fought like these humans. Signal the fleet, he said finally, each word tasting of bitter defeat. Disengage and withdraw to Zinthari space. 3 days later, Commander Ilara stood in the observation dome of Bastion 9, watching as Allied repair ships worked alongside the sleek Earth vessels to rebuild the station's damaged sections. Beside her, Captain Chen studied a datapad containing casualty reports. "We lost 8 Wraith fighters and their pilots," Chen said soberly, "but they saved millions of lives." "The entire Allied worlds are in your debt," Ilara replied. "The Council is already drafting a formal alliance proposal with Earth." Chen nodded. "They'll accept. This war isn't over. The Zinthari will return once they've adapted to our tactics. And when they do, they'll find us ready." Chen set down the datapad. "My people have a saying. The most dangerous enemy is the one with nothing left to lose. The Zinthari thought they had you beaten. They grew complacent." "And your people?" Ilara asked. "What makes humans different?" Chen was quiet for a moment, watching the stars beyond the station. "Humans don't accept no-win scenarios," she said finally. "Throughout our history, we faced extinction-level threats from nature, from each other, from our own technology. Each time, we've adapted and survived, not because we're stronger or smarter than other species, but because we refuse to accept defeat as inevitable." "The human factor," Ilara mused. "Exactly." Chen smiled. "The Zinthari understand power. They understand technology and resources. What they don't understand, what they couldn't anticipate, is creativity born from desperation. The willingness to risk everything on an unlikely gambit." Below them, the station hummed with renewed activity. Ships from a dozen Allied species worked alongside Earth vessels, coordinating repairs and defense preparations. Already, Shen's tactical team was training Allied officers in human combat doctrines, while Allied engineers shared their technology with the Earth crews. "We have much to learn from each other," Ilara said. "That's the other human quality worth knowing," Chen replied. "We're at our best when we work together. Not just with other humans, but with anyone who shares our values." She extended her hand in the human gesture of partnership. "To new beginnings." Ilara took the offered hand, no longer awkward with the motion. "To new beginnings, and to humanity joining the stars." As Allied and Earth ships moved in formation around the station, the Zinthari fleet retreated deeper into their territory, nursing their wounds and their wounded pride. But Supreme Commander Vrax stood on his bridge. Mandibles clicked in thought as he reviewed the battle recordings again and again. "Humans," he muttered to himself. "We will meet again." But for now, at least, the tide had turned. The war that had seemed lost only days before now held the promise of victory. And throughout the Allied worlds, the story spread of how defeat had transformed into hope with the arrival of a single human ship. The story of how, when their enemies were celebrating victory, humanity entered the battle, and everything changed.